Thank you again for tuning in to the Only You podcast. Everyone, this is the month of October, and it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month here at the Only You. And I just want to say that I gave a lot of statistics in the last podcast I did, which is The Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. I had to do it just for the fact that it was kind of controversial and ridiculous, but thank you again for listening. And today I'm going to be doing a great read by Seneca, who is a philosopher. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. And I think that's important to share because Seneca is who I'm going to be doing today. He is a philosophical writer, and he's well known for his plays, which honestly were all tragedies. His works include 12 essays and 124 letters dealing with moral issues. These writings constitute one of the most important bodies of primary material for ancient Stoicism. And if you guys don't know anything about Stoicism, it's kind of uplifting to learn about, Marcus Aurelius and how he really could change your life just for the fact that his Stoicism was just amazing. He had a lot of great sayings, as well as Seneca, and that's why I'm choosing to do Gutenberg's Index of Seneca today. And Seneca was born in Hispaniola. He actually lived during the time of Paul in the Bible. And Seneca actually tutored Nero, and he actually was able to be in the Roman Senate. And if you guys don't know anything about the Roman Empire, they were the longest democracy ever, 539 years. And when the Roman Empire started to crumble, it costed 2.5 cents to make one Roman penny, so they got rid of the penny, and then the empire started to crumble. But at the time when they fell apart, senators were allowed to have people with them, and nobody wore clothes anymore, and they were allowing so many different crazy wild things, which we see that stuff here in America when we're approaching 300 years of a democracy, and how things are getting pretty wild. But it's normal in a democracy because we have a lot of the same value systems as the Romans did. And the Romans also said that, they had the Colosseum, but they said if you can feed and entertain, you can control the masses. And that's what they do here. There's fast food on every street corner. Everybody has a phone, and they're always on it in the workplace, at home, in the buses, in the subways. And that's how we are under the thumb of rule, And Seneca actually tutored Nero, and I think it's important to talk about that because Paul in the Bible, and it is well enough known that Nero was emperor from AD 54 when he was just 16 until his death as a young man of 30. In AD 68, just 14 years later, Paul ministered from the Bible during those 14 years, and we're not sure when he died, but he actually accomplished 3 famous missionary journeys during that time, from AD 47 to AD 57, writing his famous epistle to the Romans in AD 57 near the end of his 3rd journey, and visiting Nero's Rome under house arrest from AD 60 to 62, because when imprisoned in Caesarea from AD 57 to 59, Paul had appealed to Caesar for judgment, in which that was Nero. And it is important then to consider Nero, for Paul could have, been ignorant about this man and the man who would eventually condemn him to death. And Nero was actually a really evil ruler, and Seneca actually became part of a group of people. They actually all came together to pretty much have Nero assassinated. So thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast. And today I'm going to be doing the index of Seneca. And hopefully you'll enjoy this, because some of his index stuff is wonderful because it's about happiness. And I just want to say, what's making you happy today? What's the reason for your smile? Are you doing the work inside yourself that we need to do to actually find true happiness? And that's why America is here. It's for the pursuit of happiness. That's why everybody wants in this country, is because under this rule, we do have a lot of freedoms that other countries don't have. But then again, they have a lot of things in other countries that we don't have, like free healthcare. But you know what? If we continue to live the American dream, we'll continue to be in happiness at some point when we figure out what it is that makes us happy. Realize the things that you're infatuated with, because those are the things that are going to make you happy. Don't resist the things that make you who you are. Welcome change, welcome new acceptance of friends, and rebuilding old bridges that have been burned, or trying to redevelop a relationship with somebody who you had a falling out with, whatever it may be. Happiness is your own pursuit, and sometimes we get caught up in our systems and our life and our work schedules and systems that we just totally forget about our own personal happiness. And it's hard to function sometimes. And it's sad for, life is very short, and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. And that was Seneca. And hopefully you guys enjoy this. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for all the 5-star reviews. And hopefully you checked out my other podcasts that I've done. I took a little break, but I'm back. And hopefully you enjoy this wonderful read by Seneca. Ralph Waldo Emerson said it best. Every human heart vibrates to the sound of the metal string. So what's your happiness, and what's your hobby that you picked up to find your happiness and bring you peace? Happiness is the feeling that washes over you when you experience positive emotions, interactions, and events. The brain responds to positive stimuli by releasing feel-good chemicals. So in reality, whenever your paradigm gets changed and your neuroplasticity, when you meet somebody, your RNA in your body, it literally starts sending positive charged ions cell to cell in your whole body, which makes this feel-good sensation. Then your body releases hormones such as endorphins, serotonin, epinephrine, dopamine. These are all things that make us happy and feel good. So certain activities trigger your brain to release these hormones, like exercise, dancing, meditation. But those boost of feel-good chemicals is situational a lot of times. And it might go away when you stop that activity or leave a situation that makes you happy. For example, runners typically experience a high after an intense run. I used to run 25 to 30 miles a week, and I just loved the feeling it gave me, because every opioid receptor in my body was activated, and it lasted for hours and hours and hours. So the more I got that feeling, the more miles I ran. And if you've never ran 10 miles in your life, when you get to 8 miles, your brain starts telling you, stop, I'm gonna die. Your heart's pounding so fast. If you don't quit now, I'm gonna collapse. And that's like, what we go through with the devil, constantly whispering, constantly saying stuff. And today's read is going to be with Seneca and, the index of his wonderful thoughts, because this guy had it right. And could you imagine, I do want to say this to you guys too about Paul, because Paul was out preaching at the time of Seneca, tutoring Nero, and then in the end, Seneca turned against Nero and wanted to assassinate him. He was with a group, and then he wound up killing himself in the end, Seneca did. And that's sad, but it happened. So, but Paul actually, he used to kill Christians. He was a murderer. He hated Christians. His name was Saul. But on the road to Damascus, he saw a white light and he got to meet God. And then all of a sudden, he changed his name to Paul. And in all religions, there's always a story where one of the disciples changes their name to become someone else, a new creature. The old is gone, the new has come. And that's what we need to work towards as a human, and find our real happiness. What makes us happy? What makes us tick and what makes us feel good, Seneca, and this is of a happy life. There is not anything in this world, perhaps, that is more talked of and less understood than the business of a happy life. It is every man's wish and design, and yet not one of 1,000 that knows wherein the happiness consists. We live, however, in a blind and eager pursuit of it, and more haste we make is a wrong way the further we are from our journey's end, because we're not really putting in the work to know what we need to make our journey just easy on ourselves. And I think people need to start coming up with ways to have a sonic boom inside of their heart and think about it when the outside world's pressing down on you. Try to use your energy, coming from your heart outwards to push work, to push certain relationship stuff out of sight of you, because the most important thing is you and your God inside of yourself, and not allowing anybody to come inside your individual circle. So, but we live, however, in a blind and eager pursuit of it. And the more haste we make in a wrong way, the further we are from our journey's end. I had to repeat that because that's important. And this is about happiness. Let us therefore first consider what it is we should be at. And secondly, which is the readiest way to compass it. If we be right, we shall find every day how much we improve. But if we either follow the cry or the track of people that are out of the way, we must expect to be misled and to continue our days in wondering and in error. Because we're not, doing the work we need to do to realize what our purpose is. And a lot of it has to do with being okay that we're here for God's purpose. Wherefore it highly concerns us to make along with us a skillful guide, for it is not in this as in other voyages where the highway brings us to our place of repose, or if a man should happen to be out where the inhabitants might set him right again. But on the contrary, the beaten road is here, the most dangerous, and the people, instead of helping us, misguide us. And we see this all the time here in America. We're really misguiding each other and not doing the real things we should be doing, like building one another up, not trying to divide ourselves. We got to get back to unity and, solidarity between people, and realize that we're all entitled to our own individuality, our own personality, and we need to set each other free. It's wild. Let us not therefore follow like beasts, but rather govern ourselves by reason. than by example. It fares with us in human life as in a routed army. One stumbles first, and then another falls upon him, and so they follow, one upon the neck of another, until the whole field comes to be but one heap of miscarriages. And the mischief is that the number of multitude carries it against truth and justice, so that we must leave the crowd if we could be happy. For the question of a happy life is not to be decided by vote, nay, so far from it. The polarity of voices is still an argument of the wrong. The common people find it easier to believe than to judge, and content themselves with what is usual, never examining whether it be good or not. Because there's a lot of laws in America right now, and people are like, well, it's the law. Well, just because it's the law doesn't make it moral, and it doesn't make it just. And that there's laws out there that are hurting millions of people, and it always seems that it takes 30 to 40, 50 years before all of a sudden somebody comes up with like, whoa, this is messing people's lives up. What have we done here? Look at LBJ. As soon as JFK was assassinated, LBJ gets sworn in. He comes up with the Great Society. I mean, I get it, you were a fan of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, but hey, man, we're a democracy. We don't want to be socialist. And it wound up pushing the dad out of the picture and empowering the mom to go to work and, leave the government to raise our kids, and it's crazy. By the common people is intended the man of title as well as the clouded shoe. For I do not distinguish them by the eye, but by the mind, which is the proper judge of the man. Worldly felicity, I know, makes the head giddy, but if ever a man comes to himself again, he will confess that whatsoever he has done, he wishes undone, and that the things he feared were better than those he prayed for. And that's the truth, especially when you finally grow up and you realize, like, whoa, man, I did a lot of stupid stuff, but I also was very misled and misguided, and I didn't have anybody to look up to. I didn't have the goat in my life that I needed, the person that I should have set there, like Jesus. And some of us get lost and we get into these situations that we're brought up in that we have no idea how to get out of it, because sometimes we get stuck in certain situations that are really hard to get out of because we're mentally in a trauma loop. And the true felicity of life is to be free from perturbations, to understand our duties towards God and man, to enjoy the present without any anxious dependence upon the future. Remember, because anxiety is worrying about the future, and depression is putting too much thought about the past. And you need to realize that the present is a gift. Not to assume ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is abundantly sufficient. Because that's our whole goal here, is to be self-sufficient. We need ourselves and God, so we need to do that sonic boom within our hearts to push all those forces on the outside of our independent circle. The great blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. But we shut our eyes, and like people in the dark, we fall foul upon the very thing which we search for without finding it. Tranquility is a certain equality of mind, which no condition of fortune can either exalt or depress. Nothing can make it less, for it is the state of human perfection. It raises us as high as we can go, and makes every man his own supporter, whereas he that is borne up by anything else may fall. He that judges aright and preserves it enjoys a perpetual calm. He takes a true prospect of things. He observes an order, measure, a decorum in all his actions. He has a benevolence in his nature. He squares his life according to reason, and draws to himself love and admiration, without a certain and an unchangeable judgment. All the rest is but fluctuation, but he that always wills and nils the same, that will always wills and nils the same thing, is abundantly in the right. Liberty and serenity of mind must necessarily ensue upon the mastering of those things which either allure or affright us, when instead of those flashy pleasures, which even at the best are both vain and hurtful together, we shall find ourselves posed of joy transporting and everlasting. Thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast, and hopefully you're enjoying Seneca. It must be a sound mind that makes a happy man. There must be a consistency in all conditions, a care of the things of this world, but without trouble, and such an indifference for the bounties of fortune, that either with them or without them we may live contently. There must be neither lamentation, nor quarreling, nor sloth, nor fear, for it makes a discord in a man's life. And that goes back all the way to ages 3 to 6 when we're being developed. We're either, like William James said, you're either a firstborn or a twice-born. Firstborns are natural-born managers. They're calm, collective. They can go to the drawing board in their minds and figure out problems very quickly, as opposed to a twice-born who's a natural-born leader. And this type of person is very anxious. They worry a lot about things. They are quick talkers, and that's me. I'm a twice-born because early on in my life, it wasn't a lot of calm situations. It was a lot of surviving and struggling and watching my mom go through things and watching everybody around me go through things. That forms a child's life to be a twice born, and it affects somewhat how our happiness is, but it is a lot. You're in charge of your life, and we sometimes put emphasis that, when we're younger, that our parents are in charge of our well-being and our outcome, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. No, you're in charge of your own personal development. It must be a sound mind that makes a happy man. There must be a consistency in all conditions, a care for the things of this world, but without trouble, and such an indifference for the bounties of fortune that either with them or without them we may live contently. And I thought that's important because that was a good one. The joy of a wise man stands firm without interruption, in all places, at all times, and in all conditions. His thoughts are cheerful and quiet, as it never came into him from without, so it will never leave him, but it is born within him and inseparable from him. It is a solicitous life that is egged on with the hope of anything, though never so open and easy. Nay, though a man should never suffer any sort of disappointment. I do not speak this either as a bar to the fair enjoyment of lawful pleasures, or to the gentle flatteries of responsible expectations, but on the contrary, I would have men to be always in good humor, provided that it arises from their own souls and be cherished in their own breasts. Other delights are trivial. They may smooth the brow, but they do not fill and affect the heart. And that's important. We're human beings, and we vibrate to the metal string. We're on a frequency. The music you listen to most frequently develops your brain in all parts of your brain, because if you've never seen any brain imagery of how music turns on every single part of your brain when you listen to it, whether it be sad, whether it be happy, it literally affects you in all ways. And I'm glad that Seneca's pointing this out here. I do not speak this either as a bar to the fair enjoyment of lawful pleasures or to the gentle flatteries of reasonable expectations, but on the contrary, I would have men to be always in good humor. And that's important because as men and women, we always need to be lighthearted. A lot of people are getting drugged down because, we're having a lot of stress put on us by the government right now because they created a money machine with that stimulus. And it's like, I knew right away when they were handing out money, like, somebody's like, oh, we deserve this. I'm like, no, we don't. I mean, this is the government. This is blood money. Send it back. I don't want it. Seriously, I really said that. True joy is a serene and sober motion, and they are miserably out that take laughing for rejoicing. The seed of it within, and there is no cheerfulness like the resolution of a brave mind that has fortune under his feet. He that can look death in the face and bid it welcome, open his door to poverty, and bridle his appetites, this is the man whom Providence has established in the possession of invaluable delights. The pleasures of the vulgar, the undergrounded, thin, and superficial, but the others are solid and eternal, as the body itself is rather a necessary thing than a great, so the comforts of it are but temporary and vain. Besides that, without extraordinary moderation, their end is only pain and repentance, whereas a peaceful conscience, honest thoughts, virtuous actions, and an indifference for casual events are blessings without end or measure. This consummated state of felicity is only a submission to the dictate of right nature. So, felicity means the quality or state of being happy. And that's what our purpose is here on this planet, is to find our true happiness. And the foundation of it is wisdom and virtue, the knowledge of what we ought to do, and the conformity of the will to that knowledge. So, human happiness is founded upon wisdom and virtue, and first of wisdom. I think that's awesome. And we all need to take a step back and realize that we're in charge of our own happiness. And if we're going to be happy, we got to find things that actually, bring us true joy instead of, I would say, pain and suffering. Wouldn't you say that? Because true happiness, comes from exercise. It comes from meditation. It comes from doing good things for people. Giving like it. When you give things to somebody, it really releases endorphins and hormones that your body normally doesn't produce because it's a wonderful happy loop. And it works once you get that gratification of, whoa, I just helped somebody out. And happiness might seem far away for some people, and nobody can be happy at all times. In fact, according to the 2023 World Happiness Report, happiness levels in the U.S. are falling slightly every year, and many people associate happiness with achievements, switching careers, meeting a life partner, or making a big purchase. And it's true that of setting goals, and especially reaching those goals once you set them. And we got to realize when we set a goal that we can't tell anybody about it because our brains are hardwired to say, hey, we completed that already once you speak it, because nobody's going to ever believe you as much as you believe yourself. What you say comes out of your mouth and enters right back into your ears and settles inside of your soul, and it becomes who you are, the things that you say and put out there. So if you're out there speaking ill of people and trying to viciously get them in trouble, because that's another mental thing and hardwire is people get off on when other people suffer. And it sucks because they actually did a study, a Stanford college study, where they put like half the class as inmates in a real prison and the other half is like the COs. And over a 6-month period, the COs started getting vicious with them and started mistreating them. And they were really their classmates. Even the professor actually was like getting, as the warden was like being like very ignorant, ill-willed towards people. And that's alarming, you know. And we need to learn to take care of ourselves for our happiness. And chances are that many people depend on you out there, like your children or, you know, your partners, your parents, your friends, your colleagues. And this isn't a bad thing, but it's easy to become so distracted by taking care of others that you forget to take care of yourself. And you need to learn how to prioritize your physical and mental health and develop your self-care routine, because if you're just surviving if you don't have a self-care routine and dedicating a few small moments to yourself every single day, you know, by meditating, doing yoga, you know, completing skincare routines, you know, because in our society, as I was growing up, oh, I used to have an uncle that would say, you're wearing an earring. Only homos wear earrings. And I was like, oh, dude, so I stopped wearing an earring because I thought, not that I cared that he thought I was a homo, because I didn't. I cared that my uncle thought ill of me. And then 20 years later, he goes out and gets an earring. And then I had to make fun of him, but it is what it is. But we get into situations where, it was about the skincare routine, getting your nails done. And when I had met somebody out in Phoenix that always got their nails done and he was a guy, I thought, well, that's weird, you know? Well, it wasn't weird. He actually was taking care of himself and doing things that he should have been doing without feeling bad about it or being judged by society. And that's what goes on with a lot of guys and girls. And hopefully we're getting away from that at this point. You know, we need to find hobbies that bring you joy. I find joy in playing guitar. You know, it vibrates my string, my heart. The metal string vibrates my heart. And I'm trying to be true to myself, and we need to practice mindfulness. Negative thoughts can affect your mood, both on a day-to-day basis and in the long term. It can make you so depressed. And when you're worrying constantly about what other people are thinking and not realizing that you got to focus on your inner independent circle inside of yourself, and that's all that matters when you're trying to get better and to do that sonic boom with your heart to where it pushes all that outside work stress, relationship stress, bill stress, those things in life that are stressing you out. Those are things that are going to always be there and they're never going to go away. So if you have to find yourself ruminating over negative emotions or you have a hard time letting go, try being more present. Practice mindfulness, or mindfulness activities can help you live in the moment and appreciate the things you have rather than regret things that you've done. And that's what a lot of us spend time doing, is regretting and thinking, oh man, I wish that wouldn't have happened. But you know what? There's nothing we can do about it. And these systems are set in place in the world and laws, and they're to make us better people and to realize that people deserve their own personality, their own individuality, and not everybody needs to be butthurt when somebody says something or tells a joke and you overhear it and go cry. You go cry and get upset or whatever. It's crazy though. Like, why can't that person be themselves? Why do we have to feel like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, he made me feel like this. Because we as human beings love to overhear things, and we love to get involved in things that cause chaos and what people are going through. And sometimes we don't even realize we're doing this stuff because we're so stuck in our heads about things, And what about this? How about writing your feelings down? Does anybody out there write their feelings down and really try to delve into the heart of what's going on? Some of us need to take a moment and do a gratitude journal. Thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast. It does mean a lot, and I appreciate you. A nihilist is a person who has given up on happiness, who has become resigned to belief that life has no meaning. In the rat race archetype describes the state of living for the future, and the hedonism archetype, the state of living for the present. Then the nihilism archetype captures the state of being chained to the past. People have resigned themselves to their present unhappiness and expect the same sort of life in the future, are fettered to their past failures to attain happiness. Such attachment to past failures has been described by many as learned helplessness. To study this phenomenon, Sigelman, which was Martin Sigelman, placed dogs in 3 experimental groups. The dogs in the first group were given electric shocks, which they could turn off by pressing a panel. Dogs in the second group were given shocks that persisted regardless of their actions. The third group of dogs, the control group, received no shocks at all. All the dogs were later put in boxes where they were given electric shocks, but from which they could easily escape by jumping over a low barrier. The dogs in the first group who had been able to stop the shocks earlier, and the dogs from the third group who had not previously received any shocks, quickly jumped over from the ways in which those individuals will prepare for their careers. In romantic relationships, some couples enjoy their time together and help each other grow and develop. Those who work as something they love, be it in business, medicine, or art, can progress in their career while enjoying the journey. To expect constant happiness, though, is to set ourselves up for failure and disappointment. And thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast. And we are actually doing some index stuff of Seneca's today. This is October, and I want you to be aware that it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And if you know anybody that's going through any kind of situations, reach out to someone and get them help, because those people are being treated and mistreated, and we need to be aware of our body language. It says a lot, and a lot of domestic situations are from our body language, and we don't even know it. And thank you guys again for being my fans. Thank you for following me, and thank you for sharing me, and hopefully you're enjoying Seneca. This is a great book. I do want to go over one more thing before we jump back into Seneca, and it's about silicone and what it does for your body. Chemical elements play a role in our nervous system function, from muscle tics to mental clarity. A neurosis can be a nerve habit, as for instance, the writer's cramp. In such an ailment, silicone, sulfur, and neuroline are used up in the nerves. Neurosis is in the nerves. In times of nervous debauchery, fall back on oatmeal, you guys. Oatmeal is like one of the best plants out there because it grows down the ground 300 feet, and it has the longest root system of any plant. And if it's milled, it means it mills off all the nutrients, and they use it to put in multivitamins and stuff like that. You got to get real oats or real oatmeal, because the roots actually pick up all the macronutrients that your body needs that we don't normally get from regular vegetables. Silicone has a remarkable effect upon the cerebral cortex, or that part of the brain that thinks and observes. Take out that part of the brain, and we are as helpless as babies. Yet, we may have a strong will as we ever had, then we are human beings without intellect. We are next to animals if you take that part of the brain out. And silicone is beneficial for the nerves and the bowel walls, the alimentary tracts, the lungs, and the entire system. If children are not supplied with proper amounts of silicone, they suffer like great illnesses, and they develop like membranous tissue defects, or the walls of their gastrointestinal system are affected. And some people are said to have a silicone personality, and a silicone person is here, there, and everywhere. He or she is like a goat. He or she likes to be high in the air. The goat likes to get up on the highest rocks. Not surprisingly, goats are partial to silicone containing fed grasses, leaves, and grains. Silicone people are elastic and prone to exaggerate. They see everything through magnifying glasses or imagination. They are busy all the time. When they are not talking, they are singing, but they never talk long on any one subject. You find silicone people mostly among the Swiss, which I have a lot of Swiss relatives. Swiss people have beautiful hair. And actually, this past week, the Swiss government passed a bill that if you don't make $2,332, I think it was, that number could be a little bit off, but they're going to deport their citizens there for not making that much money a month. And there are two elements that make us feel important. One is silicone and the other is phosphorus. If there is an excess of phosphorus, a man feels like a king. He walks with a stately bearing. A woman feels like a queen. The difference between silicone people and phosphorus people is that silicone people talk while phosphorus people stand, look, and observe. The silicone man talks all the time, looking this way and that way, in every direction. He talks on 1,000 different subjects. He talks and gestures as actively as a goat. The silicone person is sociable, just like the goat. If you buy a goat, be sure that you buy two. If you do not buy two, you will lose the one you buy. That is the way of goats. Silicone persons are the same. They can never be by themselves. Silicone persons do not need much sleep. They may retire at 1 a.m. and sleep until 4 a.m. They are like elastic engines, full of activity and vitality. Silicone people never seem to live to be very old. They become so excessively active that they simply wear themselves out. And I hope that don't happen to me. And thank you guys for listening and tuning in to the Only You podcast. And hopefully I've given you some great insights on how to find your happiness. Wisdom is a right understanding, a faculty of discerning good from evil. And what we got to work on a lot is discernment in America. A lot of us don't even know how to discern other people. I'm terrible at discernment because I look at people as like, hey, you're entitled to your own individuality, your own personality. Don't mistreat me because I'm different than you. And a lot of times we run into people like that misjudge us, and that's a terrible thing that we do as humans. We're prone to judge things because we're trying to keep ourselves safe, you know. Our amygdala gets activated and we try to always constantly create, oh my God, what is this? What's going to happen? We always try to predict the future as human beings, and it winds up dragging us down. It sets a watch over our words and deeds. It takes us up with the contemplation of the works of nature and makes us invincible by either good or evil fortune. It is large and spacious and requires a great deal of room to work in. It ransacks heaven and earth. It has for its object things past to come, transitory and eternal. It examines all the circumstances of time, what it is, when it began, and how long it will continue. And so, for the mind, whence it came, what it is, when it begins, how long it lasts, whether or not it passes from one form to another. It serves only one and wonders when it leaves us. Whether it abides in a state of separation, and what the action of it, what it use it makes of its liberty, whether or not it retains the memory of things past and comes to the knowledge of itself. It is the habit of a perfect mind and the perfection of humanity raised as high as nature can carry it. It differs from philosophy as avarice and money and one desires, and the other is desired. The one is the effect and the reward of the other. To be wise is the use of wisdom, as seeing is the use of eyes, and well speaking the use of eloquence. He that is perfectly wise is perfectly happy. Nay, the very beginning of wisdom makes life easy to us. Neither is it enough to know this, unless we print it in our minds by daily meditation, and so bring a good will to a good habit. And we must practice what we preach, for philosophy is not a subject for popular ostentation, nor does it rest in words, but in things. It is not an entertainment taken up for delight, or to give a taste to our leisure, but it fashions the mind, governs our actions, tells us what we are to do and what not. It sits at the helm and guides us through all hazards. Nay, we cannot be safe without it, for every hour gives us occasion to make it useful. It informs us in all duties of life, piety to our parents, faith to our friends, charity to the miserable, judgment and counsel. It gives us peace by fearing nothing, and riches by coveting nothing. There is no condition of life that excludes a wise man from discharging his duty. It is his fortune. Be good, he tempers it. If bad, he masters it. If he has an estate, he will exercise his virtue in plenty. If none, in poverty. If he cannot do it in his country, he will do it in banishment. If he has no command, he will do the office of a common soldier. Some people have the skill of reclaiming the fiercest of beasts. They will make a lion embrace his keeper, a tiger kiss him, an elephant kneel to him. This is the case of a wise man. In the extremest difficulties, let them be never so terrible in themselves. When they come to him once, they are perfectly tame. They that ascribe the invention of tillage, architecture, navigation, etc., to the wise men may be in the right. They were invented by wise men. As wise men, for wisdom does not teach our fingers, but our minds, fiddling and dancing, arms and fornications, where the works of luxury and discord. But wisdom instructs us in the way of nature, and the arts of unity and concord, not in the instruments, but in the government of life. And that's a deep point right there, in the government of life, because it's up to you to manage and lead your own life, and make sure you do your sonic boom within, pushing all those inner things from the outward world that are pressing down on you on every single aspect of life. It's up to you to sonic boom from within. Bruce Lee 1-inch punch that stuff out of your individual circle, so you and God can have unity and you can care about other people around you. So she teaches us what things are good, what evil, and what only appears so, and to distinguish true greatness and tumor. She clears our minds of dross and vanity. She raises up our thoughts to heaven and carries them down to hell. She discourses of the nature of the soul, the power of faculties of it, the first principles of things, the order of providence. She exalts us from things corporal to things incorporeal, and retrieves the truth of all. She searches nature, gives laws to life, and tells us that it is not enough to God unless we obey him. She looks upon all accidents as acts of providence, sets a true value upon things delivered us from false opinions, and condemns all pleasures that are attained with repentance. She allows nothing to be good that will not be so forever, no man to be happy, but that needs no other happiness than what he has within himself. And that's why I say, sonic boom from within. Are you taking care of the 12 body systems? You know, there are 12 systems that are responsible for carrying on life process in the human body. These are the skeletal, the muscular, the respiratory, endocrine, digestive, reproductive, integumentary, lymphatic, excretory, circulatory, nervous, and urinary systems. If you're not taking care of just the basics, how can you ever be happy? If you've let yourself get so far gone, you know, each of these systems has specific functions. Each system interacts with all other systems to achieve and maintain equilibrium in the whole body. If there is a deficiency in one's systems, for instance, not enough calcium supplied through nutrition, the digestive system, the body will begin to tap its stores. And in this case, it would be for, calcium for the bones, the skeletal system, to compensate. And this example pretty much illustrates the principle of balance on which the human body is based. Whatever neglect is shown in one system, the other system will compensate for that neglect. And that's what we kind of tend to forget about here in America, because, the law of balance can work in a positive way. Whatever we do to help one system will benefit other systems. For example, if we eat correctly, which is we feed our digestive system, not only will digestion and elimination, or your I can't say that word very well, excretory system functions more smoothly, but nutritions will be carried in proper balance and generous proportions through the blood, and that's your circulatory system, to the glands, which is your endocrine system, thereby aiding all remaining systems to function at their peak. And through the course of many studies done, direct results of personal experiences with patients, doctors have concluded that the foods, drinks, and herbs that are listed in charts all over the internet actually are helpful to particular systems. All the stuff that you're putting, pretty much, the word diet comes from the Greek, and that means your way of life. So anything that you put in your body is your way of life. And exercise has a lot to do with your happiness too. And it's about mind, body, and soul. And that's how you get to happiness. Happiness comes from hard work and dedication to understanding who you are, what you are, and understanding what forms you. DNA, RNA, and proteins are some of the most important things that you can put in your body. I eat tuna every single day because it's brain food. It's neurochemical transmission food. I want my positive neurons pumping through my veins all at once every single day when I roll out of bed. And I try to be the best human being I know how to be. I may get out of line at times, at work or at home, but, for the most part, I'm set in my ways at my age, and I am the goat of my life, and my God does matter, and you matter. You and all your situations affect me too. They may not affect me because you're living in India right now or in South Africa right now, but in reality, I live in the United States, and I'm being affected by people all over the world. And I am grateful for different cultures. I'm grateful for the diversity, and I'm grateful for the pursuit of happiness here in America. And we need to come together as one and realize that if we could help each other every single day instead of always judging or mistreating or thinking ill, and try to change our paradigm to the point where we have a shift. Because if you are unhappy, you got to realize, you got to find the root cause. Like Hippocrates said, if you find the root cause, you can find anything. Let food be thy medicine. And hypocrites said that in 431 BC. And he is still one of the greatest medical people of our times right now. It's called the Hippocratic Oath, and that's what every doctor learns when they go to school. So how can a doctor know more about what's going on with you than you know yourself? So if you can find the root cause of what's causing your unhappiness, maybe then you could learn to give that unhappiness validation, give it acceptance, and let it go and move on and find things that make you happy and let you be who you are. Because I feel like the meme I seen with the horse tied to that plastic chair says a lot, you know. I bring that up often because it really said a lot in that picture. You don't even realize your own strength because you're not getting to the root cause of what's causing you to be unhappy. And I want every single one of you out there to be happy. And you know, it's not going to be happy every single day. It's not Christmas cookies and Thanksgiving every 2 days of the week, you know. It's grinding time here in America. We're grinding so hard at our jobs that, you know, we ain't got time for all the outside world stuff that's going on, you know. The news has divided all of us, and I want us back to the unity that we had, you know, pre-1990. I want us to really feel what it's like to live at peace between each other and realize we can accept each other's culture, skin color, and all the diversity that's here because this is what makes us America. Yeah, I'm really French, you know, but do I feel French? No. I feel American because my family's been here since 1547, or excuse me, 1647. So I feel that, you know, I belong here and these are my people, and I worry about our sovereignty. I worry about your sovereignty. I worry about your well-being in your country too. And we all have our own ideologies that we go by, but I hope and pray that one day we can realize that world peace is important. And I used to see that stuff in movies all the time from the 80s and 90s. Oh, he wants world peace. Well, yeah, I get it. We've been looking for world peace since, you know, biblical times. And have we found it? No, because none of us want to do the work. It's always easy to do the wrong thing, and it's always very hard to do the right thing. Thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast, season 3. And your happiness is within your grasp at all times. It depends on what you allow your inner self to think about and become fixated upon. So be careful what you get fixated on, because that's what you're going to become, and that's what's going to consume you, because that's what's consuming your thoughts most of the time. So keep a watchful eye upon your thoughts. Thank you, fans.